Yep, no problem.
Cool. I've hit record. Yeah, welcome. Let me share my screen so you can actually see what I can see. Here we go. There you are. So you should be able to see me and see a car sitting at
I
Okayama.
can.
I've seen you've joined the Garage 61, so that's cool. Do you know how to find the session that I've got running for us?
Yeah, I think I do. Let me hop out of this little practice run.
Where in the USA are you talking to me from?
I'm from Providence, Rhode Island, which is sort of like halfway between Boston and New York City.
Okay,
I grew up
cool.
in Boston.
Okay, you're not that far away then. You're kind of on. You're the closest part to us.
Yeah, yeah. I can. It's a 3.5 hour. I can get to you faster than I can get to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah,
Let's see.
we came over to Boston a few years ago, and it was a nice, surprisingly short flight.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. I gotta find a way to turn your volume up because relative to
Okay.
the game.
So if you right click on me,
All right.
on the
Oh
Discord,
yes,
thing,
perfect.
it should
Use
give you that
volume.
volume option.
Yeah, thanks.
So you just head into your leagues on iRacing. Oh, if it'll let me. Don't tell me my keyboard has run out of battery. Has my keyboard run out of battery? Oh, or did I manage to switch it off somehow? Weird. Right, hopefully this will work. Hey, it's working again.
All right. Yep.
So
I see
yeah,
it. I'm going to
got it.
enter it now.
Awesome. Okay, well done. So I was reading through your notes that you sent me at the start. So you said you've had an iRacing account for quite a while, but
Yep.
you've recently built a kind of more of a proper rig.
Yeah, yeah. With the triple monitors, which has helped a lot. So I sort of, just stopped practicing for a long time until I did that. So yeah, I just sort of got back into it.
And so you've got triples, you've got direct drive. What direct drive do you have?
I do. I've got the Sim Magic Alpha.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't have any experience with it, but I'm sure it's great. If it's direct drive and it's a modern thing, people are raving about those, so that's cool. And hydraulic pedals, did I read?
Yeah. They're all from Sim Magic. It was sort of like a bundle. The pedals actually feel really nice. They feel so much like a real car.
That's really cool. Okay, and you've got one of these cars for real, this generation or the previous generation, or?
Yeah, I actually do. I have that generation. The ones in the game, they're cup cars, so they have a
Yeah,
sequential gearbox.
yeah.
Mine's obviously just, three pedal, typical standard transmission.
And is it for track use or?
Yeah, actually. Well, also I drive it on the road. It's not like it's a dedicated track car, but I just recently signed up for like a local club at a track, so I hope to, take it to the track pretty frequently.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And have you been out already on track with it?
No, not with that, but I have with other cars.
Okay, cool.
Not like a ton of experience, but I've got a Cayman GT4 as well that I've taken out on
Nice.
track. Yeah, which
Okay,
is
very cool.
a car that is well beyond my skill level to push it. So I actually feel like the GR86 will be more fun because I could, more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, so you've got quite a bit more experience just in general than the majority of people that I would do these sessions with, or certainly start off with. So that's cool. That's a cool starting point. So just check. Is it all loading in all right? Is it you found the session and it's?
Oh, yep. Sorry, I
It's,
forgot to hit join.
that's all right.
Yep,
I
it's sim,
I
Sim's
was only
loading
checking
right
because
now.
your name hadn't popped up yet. So.
Yep. Oh,
Okay.
look
So
at
what
that.
we're gonna.
Strength
Well,
of field 2031. That's
nice.
you're really bringing up the average there, Brad. Nice job.
So in this first session, like the purpose of this for me is I just want to do some checks. I want to check some of your settings and that kind of thing. I'm sure everything's
Okay.
fine. It's just I've got like a checklist of things to go through that takes like 2 minutes, just so I know that I don't kick myself for not checking in like
Yeah, yeah.
3 or 4 weeks time, and I'm like, there was just this really easy setting we could have changed that would have made things easier. So we'll do that, and I basically just want to see you drive. I just want to observe on a. I've got the short version of Okayama because I don't really care that what this track is doesn't really matter too much for this first run, other than I want at least some varied corner types. But mainly want you to be able to repeat the lap over and over without it being some. If we went to Spa or Nürburgring or something where you only get to do each corner a few times, it's
Right.
much harder to repeat it and to see what you're doing consistently well and maybe not as well. So we'll just do this short one, especially because the car's not very fast.
Yeah,
I know
that
it's
makes
not
sense.
particularly exciting as a track. If we were doing F3 or something, obviously we'd be doing a bigger track. So I just want to watch, and we'll just talk about stuff. And if we'll look at some data afterwards as well. I've done some laps just as a kind of benchmark. They're probably not the world's best ever laps. I've never driven this car on this track until like 15 minutes ago. So
Okay.
I've just set some laps so I can at least refer to them. And if there's a thing that you're doing that I want you to change, or if I think it's good or whatever, we can compare the two, like positioning, what position I'm on track, and we can look at the data. And so we'll basically just use this as a bit of a starting point.
Got it.
But
The sim like kind of hung up at loading at 99%, so I just like closed it and went back in. So
yeah,
that's
no
why I'm
worries. Yeah,
taking
if you
a
weren't
little-
already an experienced sim racer, I'd say welcome to sim racing, because that is just that's the kind of thing it does.
It is. Are you excited for this weekend? F1's back.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, so I just finished watching Practice 3. I think Formula 2's on right now, so I'm gonna go watch that later on today as well. Yeah, I think our session here finishes pretty near when the start of qualifying is, so I'll go watch that after too. It's cool. It's a good
All right.
weekend.
Yeah.
And it's good that it's on a Saturday for the race this year, because I've got a very busy Sunday, so I'm actually gonna
Worked
get to
out.
see it. How about you?
I'm looking forward to it as well. Yeah, I've definitely missed it. Races are on really convenient time for us most of the time. It's like kind of early morning, so sort of
Okay.
like wake up, watch a race, and get on
And then
with
you
your
get the
day.
rest of the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
All right.
the worst place is, hey, I can see it. The worst place is like Australia. I think it's
Yeah.
always in the middle of the night. Doesn't matter when it's on.
Yep.
Except the Australian Grand Prix. Right. Okay. So we're gonna go on just like the whatever this baseline fixed setup is. But before we do any driving, let me have a look at some of your settings. So I'll just bring up my little list. So could you please on Discord share your screen for me?
Sure.
So I apologise in advance. Some of these are like really obvious. I'm not just assuming you're an idiot. It's purely that I've seen some of these things wrong before, and we only found out quite late. I'll explain in a sec. Is it sharing your screen? Oh, here we go.
I think it's like kind of loading up here. All right. Did that work?
Can't see anything just yet. It's just a
Okay.
green background.
Let's try again.
Hey, here we go. Right, I can watch your stream.
Alright.
Cool. Okay, yeah, obviously you're on triples, so I'm going to have to rely on you maybe telling me some stuff, because it's
Okay.
obviously quite zoomed out. I'm on triples too, but I'm not using NVIDIA Surround, so it allows me to select individual screens. So what we need to do then is just hop out of the car and go into the options screen.
All right. I'm not using NVIDIA Surround either, so
Oh,
if
okay.
there's a better way for me to do this, let me know if it would help you.
Well, we're only going to do your screen share just for this
Okay.
first bit, so don't worry. Once we're actually running, I'm going to be looking at my own screen, so it's not a problem.
Okay.
You can just read some stuff to me. So the first thing on my list is that we've got the data logger installed, and I know you have because you've told me, and you've got it running in the background, so that's cool.
Yep.
Your field of view, I saw it already. That's cool, so we can leave that. We'll leave that as it is. So the next thing I need to see now, I think I can actually even see it from the distance here, is your head movement. So I can see your neck motion is currently on 100% on the bottom. It's like the second from bottom option there. Is that right?
Yep.
I'm quite zoomed out, but okay.
That's right.
So at the moment, we'll leave it as it is for the moment, but I am going to ask you to change it after the first run. At the
Okay.
moment, you might be aware of this, you might not be aware of this at all. Essentially, as you drive over bumps and go over some elevation changes on the track, your on-screen dashboard is going to be moving relative to your real-world dashboard, as in like the steering wheel you're holding onto. So your
Yep.
car on screen is moving up and down, even though you physically are not moving up and down. So like the windscreen and the dash, and if you had a virtual steering wheel turned on as well, all those things would be kind of disconnected from you and the seat you're sitting in and the wheel you're holding. Ideally, we don't want that. We want the world around you to be able to move, but the virtual car that you're in to be part of your real car, like all connected up as one. And that's why, if you were to look at a Formula One simulator, for example, where you've got like a physical cockpit they're sitting in, and they've got on the screen like the suspension and the tires and everything like that. None of the on-screen stuff is kind of separated from the real thing. It's all kind of one thing, but the world around them moves. So for a fact every time the car is sliding or bouncing or whatever, it's not just a graphical representation of you moving up and down. You know for a fact that whether or not the car is moving relative to the environment around, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm
And
following you.
and neck motion basically is iRacing's way, I think, of making it look a bit more dynamic as a default setting, but in terms of actual information and being as fast as you can be, it's something that I would say 99% of like the pros have that on 0.
Okay.
So we'll look at that after the first run, but I want to have like a back-to-back for you before we do that. So let's just leave it as it is for the time being. Other settings there, I don't really care too much about. It looks like you've got pretty similar stuff to me, so that's fine. Okay, next thing then, pedal pressure check. Now I'm going to have to really squint because it is quite zoomed out. I wonder whether it lets me zoom in at all. No,
Maybe
I
there's a
don't think
way
it-
I can.
The only way I think you can, maybe, if you don't have NVIDIA Surround, on the share your screen option, there's 3 tabs. You've got applications, screens, and capture devices. I think if you click screens, it gives you the option of each individual screen.
Okay.
See whether that works. So you go share your
Yep.
screen, and then
Yep,
the screens tab in the middle.
screens.
Does it give you 3 to choose from, or just one big one?
It does.
Okay, cool. Even better. Most people use NVIDIA Surround, so it makes it harder to do this. Hey, this is more like it.
Better? Okay.
Yeah, this is cool. Right, okay. Now I can see properly what you can see. Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, so next thing. We don't have much longer on this. Just hit your brake pedal as if you were braking for the hardest braking point on a track. Just like, really firm. Cool. Okay, I can see straight away that your pedal's not all soft and squishy and horrible, so that's really good. What happens is if someone's pedal is way too soft, the red bar just goes instantly to red. So I just see it go
gotcha.
bam. I can see that you're having to apply increasing force to make that go up. That's perfect. Really good.
Okay.
This is the most patronising one. Just turn your steering wheel 90 degrees to the left for me. Cool. Thank you. I asked because I have seen that rotate all the way around when I've asked someone to do that, and they wondered why the steering was a bit too sharp and horrible. So that's good. Yours is fine. And that's literally it, because we're going to use this. The last thing is make sure we've got the correct setup loaded. But we're going to run the setup, like the fixed setup here. I
Fix
think.
setup. Yep.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. Right. So now all I want you to do is just go drive some laps. You don't have to carry on sharing your screen. You can kill the screen share because I'm just going to watch you on board in the sim.
Yeah.
And I'll get on your onboard. So
Alright,
I'm going to mute myself in Discord
Okay.
just so you don't hear me breathing or whatever distracting you. I might talk to the recording, so you might hear me on the video later talking to you in the future, just about what I'm looking at, or if there's things that we're about to talk about in real time. But for the time being, just go out, because it's a really short lap. I'd normally say do 5 time laps, but let's do 7 timed laps just because it's a really short lap.
Okay.
I just want you to have time to get warmed up, get used to this weird little version of the track, and have enough laps that whatever you're doing by the end, we can probably take as like what you're going to do every time, like the consistent version of your driving.
Yep.
So I'm going to mute myself now. Let's get 7 time laps on the board, and then we'll chat afterwards.
Okay.
Awesome. Good job, man. So
Good. All right.
I think that was 7. Like, it's an arbitrary number, you know. We could have done another 2 or more. We could have done 1 less or whatever. But just hop out of the car so you're not sitting in the car, just so it lets the data upload.
All right.
So first of all, how did that run feel? Is it a weird track that you've never really done before? This kind of short.
Yeah,
version?
I was just practicing, I guess, like the full version. So
Yeah.
at first, like that first turn where the cones were, and I was like, wait, I'm going right instead of left.
Yeah,
threw me
yeah.
off. But yeah, it was totally fine. And
it's
I
purely
realized
just so we can do more laps, basically. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I didn't have my like I have the Race Lab overlay that makes it a little easier to see the RPM, and I didn't have that, so my gear shifts could probably be better if I had that on. But other than that, good.
Cool. Okay, so first of all, it was nice to see, like, clearly you were getting quicker and quicker. I'm sure if we left you for like another 3 or 4 laps, you'd go even quicker as well. But straight away, even just like the first couple of laps, I already had things that I wanted to talk to you about. I wasn't talking to you in the future, actually. I kept my mouth shut, so I haven't made any comments just yet. So if you are watching this video back, this will be the first time we talk about it. But
Okay.
I want to ask you a couple of questions before I just tell you stuff. So what I really try and avoid is just, you know, have a session where I say, oh, you just need to brake later, or turn in at this exact point. I'd much rather you went away from a session knowing how to know. So next time, it's just, you know, you can work a thing out for yourself and you don't need me there to say a thing. So I'm not going to spoon feed you anything today. I'm just going to try and tease answers out of you. And I'll tell you things as a last resort. But how do you judge how fast you should enter a corner? Or I should rephrase that. How do you judge what the maximum speed is you can be doing at any given point in a corner? If that question makes sense.
Yeah, the question definitely makes sense. I don't think I've got a great answer to it, but I feel like I've tried to learn enough about this to tell you what the right answer is probably supposed to be. It's sort of
that's
like
all right. That's a start.
To go in slow and then keep going faster until you induce understeer. I don't know if that's the right answer.
Yeah, no. So that's certainly a decent portion of the answer. Yeah. Okay. So you know that you're going at the limit or slightly over the limit of the speed you can be carrying for this car in these conditions on this line at this track if you start to experience understeer. So that is really one of the main things. And at most of the points in a lot of those corners, do you feel that you were at... So we'll just go on your best lap. So I'm just going to... Can you see my screen, by the way?
I can, yep.
Okay, so if we just take your last lap as an example, I know you can't hear the engine rev, so it makes it a little bit harder to watch these back for you. When you watch the video, you'll hear everything, and I can hear it. But you're obviously just watching an image. But if we go to turn 1, I'm just going to run it through in full speed. So let's just do that little section there. Do you feel that on this lap, and you might not remember, but maybe just from seeing it back, do you feel you had got to the point where you experienced understeer and you could therefore make a judgment that this was the quickest you could be going through that corner? So I'll just do it in slow mo if we can.
I'm going to say no. I don't think I was experienced. I didn't drift very far to the outside, and so I probably wasn't understeering. Like, I didn't use all the track, right? I didn't need to.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good point. Yeah. So you know that the fact that you didn't need to use all the track is definitely a hint that you could have carried more speed, for sure.
Okay.
And the main thing I'd say, the thing that makes it clear to me that there was more on the table, like there was more speed that you could have been carrying, not necessarily at every phase of the corner, because it's not one homogeneous thing. You know, at different stages of the corner, you can get away with more or less speed or more or less steering angle or whatever. But let's just say at the trickiest part. So say like here, what really stood out to me, and you see this if we watch like all the or most of the corners on most of those laps we just did. When you tell the car to do a thing, it does it straight away. So for example, when you increase the steering lock here, you see you turn in and the car just goes, cool, yeah, it does it immediately. It goes exactly where you tell it. And that says to me that the car was under the limit of grip. You know, we had enough grip that doesn't matter what you tell it to do, it's gonna do it immediately. So those are the two things. But you're completely right. The fact that you were able to exit the corner here, and you can at this point you can just choose. You could go to the left, you could go to the right, you can do whatever you want because you haven't been forced all the way wide. You're completely right. That's shown that there was a bit more time on the table. So really, without me actually saying, we could carry a bit more speed at the apex of turn 1. And I don't know exactly how much. We'll have to work that out. We can look at some data. But you know now, for sure, you could carry more speed at the exit of turn 1. Or through most of turn 1, but the exit, it's obvious because we didn't use all the track. Now, this is lap 7. So what I want you to do going forward, like from the very next stint, and I appreciate this is literally the second stint in your very first session with me, but from the very next session, or the very next stint, I want you to recognise as early as possible, like lap 1 or lap 2, okay, that was easy, therefore I should have been going faster. Anything that feels easy, anytime the car does what you tell it to, straight away with no argument, means that something's wrong. And that thing is probably we were going slower than we could have gone. So, and this is in real life too, obviously, when you're doing your track driving. If it does it easily, that's a hint that maybe we went in a bit slow. We then obviously have to go through the nuance of figuring out, was it the entry? Or maybe you were absolutely the correct speed from here to halfway into the corner, but then we slowed down too much from there. Or maybe it was all too slow, or, you know, we can work it out. And I tell you what, instead of guessing, because I hate guessing, let's just have a little look at the data, because I've got my lap, so hopefully you can still see my screen. Let's grab one. And I appreciate we're just focusing on the first corner of this little circuit, but just as like a case study, let's just add in, that was your fastest, wasn't it, just there? Let's add you in, and let's make you red so you're not the same colour as me. Let's have a look at those. And let's just look at turn 1. Okay, so we can work out whether or not there was speed all the way through or whether it was just at the apex. So it's a pretty normal thing here. I can see on the brake trace, you're braking harder than I am, and therefore we're just slowing down a bit more. So yeah, and in this example, it was pretty much all the way through the corner, but the maximum speed difference was probably, it was on the approach to the apex. And then as we get to the apex, it's pretty similar. And then we converge again down the next straight, exactly as you'd expect. So we're basically the same on the entry, or just before we brake and turn in. And on the exit, we're pretty much the same. But there's this big old chunk in the middle where there's some time to be found. So, so there's nowhere in particular. I don't have to say to you, okay, you need to go in way faster or anything like that. We just need to go a little bit quicker all the way through, and you'll naturally be forced to run wider. No drama. Okay, cool. Right, so I'll get rid of the data for the moment. Let's look at a bit more of the lap. Most of this will be you driving, by the way, but I'm just going to show you this. We'll do this first lap in a bit of detail, just because it's like, of all the runs we ever look at, your very first one is probably where there's the most low-hanging fruit. So we might as well figure out if there's any traits. Okay, so we know we've just been a little bit too easy on the car at turn 1. And it wasn't the throttle on the exit sounded pretty fine. We obviously could have got on the gas harder earlier, but it's fine. This car's got traction control, so it lets you get away with a bit. And we're not going particularly fast anyway, just because of the car. Let's see this corner.
This was a tricky, for me.
This corner's awful. I don't mean you're driving badly. I mean, this corner is just a really horrible corner to drive. So I'm not gonna just assume you'll nail the line through here first time. We won't worry too much about line for the moment. Okay. I can see that you're kind of tentative. You're not sure. You're not convinced you're doing it correctly. So you turn in quite late. You're like a bit of steering. You reduce the steering. You give it a bit more. And then you do actually meet a really, really good second apex. I think there's a slightly quicker way of getting through this corner. In fact, before we even look at how I did it, before I even suggest a better way, let me just check. Let me look on the data, because I've never looked at data of this lap before in this car. I'm doing it differently to you, but my way might not be the better way. So let's just have a little look. I'm going to just zoom in. So I am going in way faster. I'm slower in the middle because I've gone in faster, but then I'm quicker on the exit. So let's just see what the delta is for sure. And then if I tell you to do it, I know it's the right way. Okay, so we're 3.5 tenths down on the entry, and then by the time we get to the exit here, 7 tenths down. Okay, cool. Okay, that's fine. So now I now know that the way I'm doing it is probably the better compromise. So without showing you the difference in line, because you've seen some speed graphs, but you haven't actually seen my car drive through here. So this is your way, obviously. Can you think of a potentially alternative way we could take this left-hander? It's probably It's probably very obvious.
I could try to hit that apex.
Yeah, you could try and hit that one
visible.
too.
Yeah.
Because at the moment you're absolutely nailing that one, but we nailed it in a way which, again, to me,
at the expense of the first one.
Precisely. Yeah, you were able to really nail that. In fact, I'm just going to change this view slightly because it's a bit too high for my liking. I just want to come down a bit. There we go. We can see it a bit more. Yeah, you nailed that second one, but we had to go pretty wide at the first one to get there. And when I say we nailed it, actually, I'm being a bit nice to you because we didn't really even nail it.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So I think because there's a very short exit. It's only really got this exit. Although I appreciate there is a long straight after this, but provided we don't totally screw up the exit onto that straight, really there's a lot of gain to be had around here. So I'm going to suggest next time we just take a shorter line, basically.
Yeah.
So we'll be traveling quicker. The middle bit won't be as easy. There will be a bit more. You won't just be able to just let the car kind of. Right now, the car is fully under control. You're totally on top of the car right now. Similar to turn one, you're able to do whatever you want. I want us to be kind of on the limit at this point, as in scrubbing the fronts and having to lift off the gas to force the car to rotate a bit. Because at the moment, you're not really having to do anything other than turn the wheel. But I want you'll know you're on the limit more when turning the wheel isn't enough. When you're having to use weight transfer by lifting off the gas at the right point to force the nose to go in. Then we'll know, okay, that's probably all the car had to give at that point. So we're going as quick as we possibly can all the time, not just at like selected points in the middle of the corners. So yeah, we're going to try and go in faster, basically. Faster, shorter. If it goes wrong, we'll deal with that then. Because if you go in faster and shorter, and then obviously you run out wide here somewhere, and it all goes to crap, that's fine because we can then deal with that as a separate problem. But let's try and have your cake here, and then we'll see if we can eat it too later on. Right. So let's skip past this bit onto the next straight. Okay, so this is harder for you watching this with no audio, but I can hear when you're off the throttle. And at this point, that entire point there I just showed you, you were fully off the gas and just like, again, giving the car a bit too much of an easy ride. You were just like letting the car chill. There's certainly no tyre squeal. So basically, like turn one, we're gonna try and not be easy on the car, essentially. So I want, even if it ultimately initially makes you slower whilst you're getting used to it, I'd rather you were like taking the mickey a bit more, taking the piss, and really like leaning on the front end through there. And you know what we were saying about turn one, about how you recognise when you're going as quick as you can? I want you to have to actually find that point rather than being under it all the time through a corner like this. I want you to be having to think, if I give more steering lock at this point, is it actually having any effect? If the answer's no, then you know you're understeering and we can't get away with any more. So right, that's that corner. And again, just there, you can see you weren't going to run wide, and you actually had to drive the car deliberately wide because you know that's the correct line. But you actually, you see just there where you straighten the wheel. You're now just artificially pointing the car to the edge because you know that's where you're supposed to go. But the car should just go there naturally. You know, you shouldn't have a choice basically. So, right, we'll skip to the next one. This is why we do a short track, because look how long I've been talking about this one track. It's only a minute long, and we're still halfway through. Right, nice slow hairpin. Okay, so that to me, we're now looking a bit better. So this slow corner, obviously there's a real low limit to the speed you can carry through here because you've got a lot of steering lock on. At this point here, I think you're absolutely killing this. This is bang on. This is like really, really good.
Okay.
But there's sorry, go on, go for it.
I mean, I think this is definitely my problem. Is that like I feel like I'm not like really even approaching the limit because I think that like I'm always worried that if I hit the limit, I'll spin out. right?
Yep.
So I'm just staying too far below it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is completely normal. Like, and if I was out on a track day with you in real life, I'd be
Yeah.
very, very happy about that first session. I'd be
Right.
thinking, this is awesome. This guy that I'm going to sit next to for the rest of the day isn't going to kill me because he's like trying too hard. This is
Yeah.
a great foundation. You know what a racing line is. You know where to hold the steering wheel and how to turn the wheel smoothly. You know how to brake firmly. All those things are good. You also know how to apply the throttle smoothly. These are all things that I don't take as a given. Like this first run that I've just seen you do there, plenty of people that I watch on a first run do all of those things wrong. So we'd be starting off, this first discussion would be about those things. You're already a big step up from all that. We're already talking about like nuance of how you recognize handling imbalances and how you maximize, you know, the speed we can carry at various different types of apex. So this is cool. But you're right. You're making it a bit too safe for yourself. And certainly in the virtual world, if not the real world, I would much rather at this point you were not necessarily spinning or going off, but suffering handling imbalances, because we can then fix those. And the more you experience them, the more you have to deal with them, the better you'll get at recognizing when they happen or just before they happen, correcting them when they do happen, and your confidence will take a big step, because you'll then feel like, if it goes wrong, it's fine. I can deal with that. I deal with that all the time. And you'll just be driving that much closer to the ultimate potential of the car.
Yep.
What you do right now, so here, this is really good. I don't think you can carry a lot more speed. I think if we looked at my trace for the first hairpin, in fact, I'll just do it rather than talking about it. Let's just zoom to hairpin 1. So just here. At this point, here we go. At this point in the corner, this is great. We have a crossover point. It's exactly what it felt like. So, at the point we're at on the video is where these lines are crossing over. And this is where I was just saying, I think you're doing basically the same speed as me. I think you're at the limit there. We're both at 84k. However, I know I don't generally want to go straight into the data on the first run, but this is quite a good one. You are the red line. I'm the blue line. I don't know whether you look at data much. Sorry if this is really obvious.
I've looked at stuff like this. Yep.
Okay, cool. So obviously the higher the line means a higher speed, and on the entry, I'm going quicker than you, but there's this point where we meet. And then for the rest of the corner, you're way faster than me, like way faster. And you can see you're also on the gas. So this is where we've kind of flipped over. We're now doing the opposite. Right now, perfect. But now, at that point, we were on the throttle at a point where we actually wanted to be really slow. So we actually wanted to... You see how wide the car ended up going out here? And you were basically forced wide out here.
Pull it all the way back to the left now. Yep.
And yeah, exactly. And then you've got to try and pull it all the way back to the left. I don't know whether you manage it. Let's see. Do we get all the way over to the left? Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, you got most of the way over there anyway. But we did travel a lot further than we needed to. And at this point here, it's cool, but we really wanted to stay tight for longer. There's no obvious way of knowing that you should be tight there for longer. That's kind of... So if I was to now ask you, how do I know that the better line or the faster line through this corner is to not run wide there? Like, there's not really an easy answer, other than I know because I've seen the two compared. And I've done laps where I've gone wide, and I've done another lap where I stayed tight, and I saw the delta went massively in the green, and I went, cool, that way's clearly faster. So this isn't a super obvious one, because also, if the next section of track wasn't a hairpin right, if the next section of track was a long straight with a left-hander somewhere down the end, what you're doing here would be better, because you're getting a faster speed on the exit, and you're using all the track, you're ending up on the correct side of the track for the next corner, all that would be correct. It's just there's a very, very tight right-hander coming up. There's a very, very short straight between these two corners. So any benefit of getting a fast exit is essentially lost or mitigated. So really, it comes down to working out what the best compromise is. And it just so happens that on this one, he's taking a tighter line. And if we do go back and look at that data, just if we zoom out a bit, we can see that you are massively quicker in the middle of the corner, but you don't really gain anything in terms of delta on the exit, so it's just extra distance for the sake of it. So, but certainly not terrible. It's just one of those things where, and in a faster car, it makes even more difference. This car, you're not actually punished that much. So I've probably spent way too long talking about it. Right, let's look at the next bit. That, I think, was one of the closest you've come to being on the limit, because I can see exactly what you're trying to make the car do. You go in pretty fast, and then you actually, you realise it's starting to understeer. So clearly, as the lock's increasing, but the car isn't turning any better. So definitely we're on the limit of front grip, and you're doing the right thing by. It feels like you touch the brake a bit. Let me just see whether you do touch the brake a bit. So we'll just go to hairpin 2. Yeah, a little bit of touch of the brake in the middle just here. So you do. Let's go back to the car. And you wait for the gas, and then you get on the gas. So, yes, it wasn't perfect because we went a bit wide, but you were on the limit of the front. So that's better than... I'd rather you did that everywhere and were slightly inaccurate than you were under the limit everywhere. So that's good. Right, last couple of corners. Here we go. That's good. Happy with that. You can't hear it, but that sounds full throttle to me. Maybe a slight lift? Whatever. You're not really losing any time there, so that's good. Okay, and again, I know you can't hear it, but there's an example here. You're nearly at the limit through this one. You're a lot closer than in other places. But there's a moment that gives it away that you've still got some speed to carry, and that's when you turn the wheel just as you approach this curb. So... here, it's this movement here. I'm going to do it in slow motion. The car responds too well. You turn, and it goes straight to the inside curb. You see that?
Yeah,
how
it turned better than I was expecting.
Yeah, and that's because we were just going slightly slower than we could be. You did the right thing. You realised you were probably going to go slightly wide, so you just adjusted your angle. But because you were going, I don't know, 10 kilometres an hour slower than you could, 5 kilometres an hour, something like that, it did what you said, and it was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, I didn't mean do it that well. And then again, you take a nice smooth line because you know what a racing line is, but you're not forced out here. So that's what we want to change on the next one. So that was a lot of talking for one short 1 minute lap. But the general kind of overview is we can probably be more on the limit most of the time, particularly turn 1, and we're going to try and take a shorter, tighter line through turn 2/3, that double right-hander. And then we'll see what happens. So I'm going to shut up and watch you again. Let's do exactly the same run again, but this time just with those things in mind. And if it goes to crap, don't worry. I'm sure it won't, because you know what you've got a good baseline ability here. This is good. But if you do end up missing an apex, going wide, spinning, don't worry. I am not judging you on that because I'm telling you to do this. I want you to be... I'd rather you went over and then we brought it back and went under, and we kind of eventually settle on this like perfect judgment of how much front grip we've got. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Do you want me to request a new car or just do practice on the same car? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I think it should just reset everything. There's no damage turned on in this session anyway, so
okay.
Not that you hit anything.
All right. Oh, and did you want me to change that neck setting?
Oh, well remembered. Excellent. Yeah, so I actually forgot to get my last guy to do this after the first session. Yes. So go to options, just turn neck motion to 0.
Done.
You might now say to me, whoa, that feels weird, even though less stuff is actually happening, just because you're probably used to that motion of the car bobbing around. But normally, by the time we get to the end of the session and I ask the question again, people forget we've even changed it. So give it a try now.
Okay. And just let me spend a maximum of 30 seconds here, seeing if I can get the iRacing over the Race Lab overlay to work.
Yeah,
again.
no problem. Yeah, no rush.
Maybe the Discord or something confused it.
Yeah, all the different overlays and things are a bit of a pain. I've got quite a nice equilibrium now where I've got everything working. What is the is it RaceLab you use?
Yeah.
I'm using a thing which I love called, see if I can find it, iOverlay. It's awesome.
iOverlay? Okay.
Yeah, it's free, it feels modern, super easy to use, no bugs, doesn't flicker, doesn't lose me frame rate. It's just awesome. So I did used to use RaceLab apps, but I had some kind of compatibility issues, and sometimes it would flicker. If I tried to stream with it on, I had some problems. So I've finally found a thing that I like. But anyway.
Yeah, it does seem like it. I think it makes sense. It seems like it doesn't like Discord or something, but that's fine. I don't really need it. I
Okay.
just have to pay a little more attention to the actual dash in the car. All right.
Cool. Right, let's
Away
do
we
the
go.
same again then. So 7 timed laps. One thing I forgot to mention, if you've got your delta on the screen, so against your best lap or against your optimal or whatever, that's cool, because I want you to see whether this is making a difference in real time. If you don't have it up, that's not a problem.
No, I don't. But I normally do. It's just that I do it in race labs. So that's why.
Yeah, copy. That's fine. No
Yeah.
problem. Just run it like this.
Bit of a moment there.
Well held. That was much better. That's more like it. That was a much better run through that corner. Stuff. Nice. That was more like it. That was much more like it.
I don't know. It feels a little sloppier, but not much faster yet. So I don't think I'm quite doing it right.
Don't worry, don't worry. Just do one more lap for me, and then we're going to talk. But we'll do a shorter talk. Awesome. Okay, so same as before, just like stop the car and hop out of it just so the data uploads. We're not going to talk for anything like as long this time because I want you to do another run, but I want to talk to you about a couple of specific things. So first of all, you did everything I asked of you. Let's just go with your last lap there just because it's, you know, it's similar to... You did one slightly quicker, but we'll go with this last one anyway. So you were doing what I asked you to in terms of you were definitely pushing harder in certain places. And there will definitely be places where you are not losing time that you were previously. But you're correct, because it's now a little bit more sloppy, because this isn't like your natural, like more safe way of driving. We're now losing time in other areas. So I'm just going to very quickly go through the lap and tell you what to keep and what to slightly tweak for the next run. So turn one. This up to here is nice. So your entry, you've done a great job. I think we just tried to get on the gas slightly too early. So we maybe, although I'm saying you want to be going as quick as possible, we probably just overstepped that mark a little bit on this lap, just by comparison what we're doing. In fact, again, I'm just going to bring the data up so we can see for real and we can compare against your last run. So we'll make you green this time. So on that run there, let's just bring, so what was the time? Well, I'm looking at 102.860. That's the lap I need to bring. So let's just find that. You're not still in the car at the moment, are you? In the garage? In the pits?
Let me check.
Just make sure.
Sorry, I'm in the pits. Yep, now I'm out.
That's all right. Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to tell because it does take a little bit of time sometimes for the data to load. But normally, if it's been more than a couple of minutes or normally more than 30 seconds, then it's because the data just hasn't had time yet. So here we go. Let's get rid of personal bests, all laps, and we just want my teammates. Oh, still not there. That's weird.
I am out this time for
Yeah,
sure.
no, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Okay, I'll give it a moment. If it doesn't load, then I'll come back to it in a second. But basically, what I was saying was, at this point, I actually think you're now going slightly too fast. Although I can hear the gas. I can hear a bit of throttle. So maybe you're just pushing it on with the gas. Whatever though, keep turn 1 pretty much how you were doing it on that lap. Just make sure that you're definitely going slow enough when you get to the apex. So we'll just rein it in a little bit. So I've told you to push harder. Now keep the entry similar. Just make sure at the apex we're fully off the throttle if it's trying to push you a little bit wide. That's all. You just got to be very, very sensitive to, is the front end actually doing what I want now or not? If it isn't, wait just a little bit longer to get on the gas. But the big time game we're going to have is this next corner. So I told you to go in tighter. You did exactly what I asked you to, but we're making the wrong compromise at this point. So before I just tell you what I want you to do, I'll show you what you're doing. So we're braking hard. We're getting super tight in this middle bit here. And then we're obviously already very tight, ready for this next one. So you've gone tight, tight. Now, just as a general question, where would you want to be on the track to get a nice entry to this next corner? Like, where would you want the car to be approaching, regardless of how you've had to do this one? Where would you want to be entering this next one?
The left side of the track more.
Yeah,
right?
or
towards those red, white.
Yeah.
Not
Obviously,
all the way, but
yeah, exactly. Ideally, you'd be all the way over here. If you could, you'd be all the way over there, aiming in at the next curb. Obviously, if you do that, as we found on your last run, you have to really compromise this one. So if there was an alternative, so we've done one extreme where we've gone really wide, and you've done another extreme here where, in fact, we're really tight, and you realise you're like, oh shit, maybe this is a bit far, and you like deliberately drive a bit wide here, but then this is all the room you've got to do the corner. That obviously makes things very, very difficult through here, pushes you super deep, and you've had to go slow. So you've now got the worst of both worlds through here. You've got to do it slow, and you screw the next corner. It's just, it's not nice. So are there, I'm sorry, I honestly don't mean for this to sound like a school lesson. I hate asking a question I know the answer to. But it tends to be better if you've actually had to do the thought process. Is there a way you can think that you could have some of that nice entry into here, but still not be slow into this one? Like, what could we do different?
You turn it into one arc, right?
Precisely.
Like and it's just that's all it is, one arc.
Exactly. And making this one arc, so what we're saying is, instead of ending up here, we can end up like here, somewhere. Yeah. And by ending up there, that gives you the freedom to carry more speed in this corner, and it means, because you're naturally going to run out wide, you're going, by carrying more speed here, you're going to be wider. You don't have this choice of being tight here. And it's going to give you a better entry to this corner. So we've just found loads of tenths of a second, basically. And just for a comparison, I haven't watched my replay yet, but I'm just going to hope that that's what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm talking crap to you. Let's just see if that is what I'm doing. So here we go.
Yep, one arc.
One arc like that. So that's what we're going to try and aim for. So that means we've maximised the speed here. So we're not kind of turning this into a 90-degree right, which it is. This is a 90-degree right, followed by another 90-degree right. But we're going to turn it into one really nice flowing 180-degree corner where we're getting benefit all the time. So that's it. It's just looking for ways to be carrying the most possible speed for as long as possible for most of the time. So that's what we'll do. So that's why I think your times weren't really any quicker, because you went from doing this bit of the corner really well to doing both bits of the corner badly. But because I told you to change it. So that's where I think most of that time gap is, because I think even on a bad lap, you were still quicker through turn 1 than you were previously. So let's just quickly. I said we're not going to dwell on this whole lap, so I'm going to literally.
That did feel like it was.
It felt awkward. Turn 1 was quicker, but this definitely looked and felt awkward, because you're still, to do this tight line that you're doing, you're having to still slow it down loads. And before you were having to slow it down loads, but at least you were getting a benefit on the exit. But now you're having to slow it down loads and you're getting zero benefit at all. So anyway, there we go. That's that one. That will also help you here, So this one,
Yep.
which is really tight and horrible, that's going to be way better next time as well. So that's cool. We can forget that because that's going to be better. This, you were really doing a great job, especially on this lap. I'm just going to play it in full speed.
Yeah, I feel like I finally got that height.
Pretty much exactly what I try and do. So that's cool. Let's just watch this one. Right, the only thing I'd say here to do differently, good entry, but you're just a bit too keen to get on the power. So this is one of those where actually being a bit slower is going to be faster. Because at this point here, you're like, this is fine. I'm going, you know, this is a nice slow speed. I've reached the apex, everything's fine. So you get on the power, and it pushes you really deep just here. I would wait until I'm nearly leaving the corner, like over here somewhere, and I'm definitely facing out. Then get on the power.
Direction you kind of want to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've not travelled this kind of extra. You see, right now you can already see what's about to happen. We're like pushing wider and wider and wider and wider, and you're like crossed up with loads of steering at this point, having to wait for the gas when we could have, if just a momentary more hesitation, a moment more of waiting on the gas, you'd have been tighter, travelled a shorter distance, probably going a similar speed, and then able to nail the gas in a nice straight line on the exit. It's just one of those things where when you've done it right, it feels obviously right. This was good. And you were much quicker into here as well. Okay, it wasn't perfect because we were still a little bit too slow on this lap, which is why you got to the grass. You shouldn't really be able to make it to that grass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you were definitely pushing harder, and on other laps you did that better. And just as a final comparison, I'll just fast forward to my own exit. I want to show you that second hairpin, just to make sure you know I'm not just saying it, and it definitely is. Good way. Why will you not load? Come on, car, load. There we go. Right, zoom into the end of the lap. Right, so first hairpin. Right, second hairpin. I'm just going to go outside the car. There. So you know what I was saying about staying tight until we're basically, till you can see out of the corner. Now I can see where I want to end up there. So I'm like, good, license to accelerate. Whereas you were facing like over there somewhere when you first got on the gas. That's the only difference. But let's have a look. What am I doing on the gas? Yeah, okay, so I am actually on the gas, but the car is, I must be going slower. I must just be travelling slower at this point, or having the angle slightly further round, because for whatever reason, my subconscious driving brain has said, you now have permission to increase the throttle, and it's because it's not running wide. And now it's like, now it's definitely going to make the corner full throttle. So if you can get in that position, if the car is sticking well enough that when you start applying the gas, it's not running wide, by all means, get on the power earlier. But for whatever reason on your lap, maybe it was the speed we were going, maybe it was a slight line difference, but when you attempted that same throttle input like that, it pushed you wide. So yeah, we'll just wait a bit longer. So cool, right, let's go again. Let's do another, let's say 5 time laps this time, because I think you can do it. I think you're going to do it in a quicker time. The main focus, though, turn 1, keep it pretty much the same, but just wait slightly more before you get on the gas if it starts to understeer at the middle. Turn 2, though. Turn 2 and 3, that double right. We want to go in earlier, faster, let it run to the middle. That'll give you the nice natural line back to the second apex. That's it. Let's go.
Yeah, that's where all the time is. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's see what we can do here.
Right, I'm going back on mute.
Okay.
So in this run, I will unmute if I want you to like tweak something. So if you do that turn 2, and there's something little I want you to tweak, I'll just unmute and mention it for the next lap. So you don't have to wait till the end.
Sounds good. The tires take a little bit to get up.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not.
Lap's always a little.
Yeah, I'm not judging you on lap 1. Don't worry.
Okay.
Okay, so we want to go in much earlier. So really like veer
Earlier.
off.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to imagine the braking point is actually not in a straight line. You're going to do most of your braking whilst you're gently turning into that turn 2. So it gives you the ability to turn in way earlier and really like straight line the first bit of the curb. Because you're going to do most of your pivot in the middle of the 2. So you don't have to get it turned early. I mean, you don't have to do the rotation early. We'll do a gentle turn early and then the big pivot in the middle.
Too fast.
Okay,
there.
but that's, you know what, I don't mind about that because you were trying, and so you can now work back from that. But turn in now, like now, really early. That's it, much better. Then you slow it down in the middle.
Okay, slow it down in the middle. Yeah, now
Yep.
I got it.
Yeah, that was much better.
I understood what you were saying before, but now
Yeah,
I understand
you got it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even that time, you still tried to get back on the gas a bit too early. So really let it pivot before you get back on the gas. But your entry and the middle part was mega that time. That was exactly what I want.
Okay.
So just rein it back a little at turn 1, but not too much.
Reined it back a little too much there, but okay.
It's okay.
So we're gonna. Now we're turning. Okay, too wide, but
Yeah, that was just a little bit too much entry speed, but you did a decent line. Remember, you can always add more brake as you approach the middle of the corner. Like, you don't have to do all the braking on the straight, so you can always adjust what's happening in real time. So you realised you were going a bit quick that time, but remember, as soon as you realise it, you can do something about it. You can just add a bit more brake, and actually it'll help you pivot the car around on that corner.
Okay.
But it's going to take a few times getting it wrong before it feels right, so don't worry. That was really good. That's the best you've done the last corner by miles.
Yeah, that was really kind of felt on the edge there.
But still tidy. It was nice. Okay, good turn 1. Really nice. We can go slightly quicker, but not bad at all.
Yeah, okay, all right. I'll get it eventually.
Yeah, we just want to do a little bit, because you're used to braking in a straight line, and I'm getting you to turn in early, you're a bit tentative braking whilst you're turning into that second corner. So just do a little bit of gentle braking as you're approaching that first apex, and then a bit more in the middle to really get it pivoted, and then it'll do it fine. We're just basically arriving in the middle with a bit of excess speed, that's all. I want you to arrive there fast, but just a little bit slower than you were on that lap. Again, really good final corner, like much more on the limit than you have been in the other 2 runs.
Okay.
Nice, you judged that really well. So that was just slightly too far the other side, like slightly too slow on the way in, but that's okay. We're we're honing in. We're honing in on the perfect version.
Yeah. I bet you this is my fastest lap, probably.
Okay, so decent turn 1. Make sure you turn in really early here. Aim for the green now.
Back on the gas too soon.
Exactly, yeah. Well recognized. And it's because we arrived there a bit slow, you thought, okay, this is slow, I can get on the gas. But actually, we couldn't because it was still too early. That getting on the gas pushed you wider. But yeah, that was really well. You knew it. As soon as you did it, you realized. But that was all caused because we went in a bit too slow that time, and it gave you the ability to get on the gas, where normally you wouldn't be able to because you'd just be going too quick. Oh, nice. Really nice through there.
I don't know why that turn, that turn seems to be clicking very well.
Yeah, you're doing really well with the final corner now. That's great. Nice. So aim in now. Get it in now. Cool, okay. We are getting there. We are getting there. You just have to make this... Yeah, you just have to make this real strong mental connection of, I want the car to turn more, so I have to stay off the gas. Like, that's the one thing. Got to let the car rotate, and as soon as you know it's going to face the right direction, then get back on. Same with these corners. You're doing a great job. This is good. Let's do a couple more laps. Yeah, really nice again through there.
So you really want to hear the tires, essentially, like that. That's
not not dramatically, but yeah, a little bit. You always want to hear a little bit of tire scrub.
Okay, a little wide.
That was just a bit too brave. That was just slightly too brave on the entry speed.
All right, that gives me a better shot to.
That's nice. We're maybe just slightly early to full throttle because it just pushed you a bit deep. You can always give it like, half or a third just to get it going, because I appreciate you don't necessarily want to be coasting for too long. You just don't want that throttle to push you wide onto a line that you didn't want. But you're doing a great job. This is good. This is really tricky to put this all together.
Yeah, no, you've been super helpful. I'm really glad we did this because, like, if you had seen those earlier, like, I'm pretty consistent, right? But it's like,
really consistent.
I'm not fast. It's like and it gets frustrating. I keep practicing, and I'm like, okay, well, I can do that pace like over and over again, but it's just not fast.
Right, so slightly more braking if we're going in quick. That's fine. Cool, that's good. Right, remember, we get it turned in early, carry good entry speed, but slow it down in the middle. Nice. Okay, that's the best you've done it. That's the best you've done it. We're not perfect, but that's the best.
Yeah. At least, we'll take it. I keep practicing that.
And because we went deep in the first hairpin exit, that obviously screws your second one, but don't worry, just make the best of it. Keep pushing for the rest of the lap. Oh man, you're so much better at that corner now. So much better. Alright, let's get this lap completed so that we can bank it as a data lap.
Okay. 101, get a 101.
Okay, so it was a 102.4, but that's just because those hairpins went to shit. That's all. So without those, it was fine. So if you just hop out again just to let the data upload. Okay, so...
Okay.
Cool, so I'm just going to replay that last lap, because I know it wasn't the fastest. You did a 1:01.9 earlier, but this was the best I think you did that hairpin. So I'm just going to show you that and why it was good. So this is why, right? So we still left a bit of entry speed on the table. So we still carried less speed in than we could have done. So you still had to like almost artificially make the car go to the middle rather than tight. So just going to watch that again. See just here how it was really easy to turn the car in, and you're almost having to force yourself not to use that much lock, because you're like, okay, it'll go tight is faster, and then you're like, oh no, I need to go wide, like out here.
Right, yeah.
Whereas ideally, we want the car, the perfect version of this would be that you've got no choice. You go in with enough speed that the car just ends up there, and then perfect. We're on the right line and we've carried the maximum possible speed. We're still obviously at the stage where you're having to either build to it or rein yourself back in from it if it goes too far and find that equilibrium in the middle. But it's really good to know what you're aiming for. And I appreciate we're at Okayama on the short version of the track. You might never be racing at this track. It's not like the circuit that you're racing at this week or anything. And we're just using this as like a kind of test bed for ideas. But this kind of thing will apply to loads of other corner complexes on loads of other tracks. So it's if you get your head around it here, it like unlocks that ability in your driving armory for other places too. So, but yeah, and what was really good was you knew when it was better and when it was worse. Like you could sense, I got on the gas too early there or whatever. So that's really good. And it wasn't easy. You weren't able to just go consistently round, super safe, same line, because we are pushing it, making you try a bit harder. So that was cool. Right. That was really good. This corner, everything was really, really good. And then you're like, it's running a bit wide here. And I can hear, boom, straight on the gas. So we just need to really cement that connection, which, it's just seat time. You just need to really make sure you've got a very strong connection between it's not turning enough. That means, in my little mental, what's the right word? The little kind of feedback loop. If it's not turning as much as I want it to, or I should say rotating, because turning could mean you turning. The vehicle isn't rotating as much as I want it to, therefore throttle isn't an option on the option list. It's like blocked off. It's greyed out. And then the moment the car starts rotating better, bing, throttle, or at least some throttle, becomes one of your available options again. But we just want that to be like, you don't have to think about that. We don't want you to have to consciously think about those things because it's too late. But you will have to think about it to begin with, that's all. But yeah, we want you to have that like blanked off. Okay, it's not rotating enough, can't use the gas. The moment it starts rotating a bit more, cool, I can now start to get on the gas. And that will just stop this from happening. Because you knew you couldn't give it full... Yeah, it's a habit. You knew you couldn't give it full gas because I can hear you're just kind of leaning on it like, oh, I've been going slow for too long. I should probably be speeding up. And you're like, but ultimately it works out worse because then you have to go half throttle for 3 seconds or whatever, whereas you could have just waited with 0 throttle for half a second more and then got to full throttle.
And full throttle.
Exactly. So that, and also, obviously, as we know, because we saw it play out, that made you too tight for this one, and then it made this one worse. And even with that, you were still only half a second off your best. So let's just have a quick look. Oh, okay, before I finish, let's just look at your awesome final corners, because you've been doing this really well. This is lovely. Like, you almost perfect. Like, you hesitated a little. You weren't quite sure you were going to make it, so you just lifted off the gas and then went.
Yeah.
And you can use a tiny bit of gravel here if you have to. I'd say that lap you probably would have got away with full throttle. But that's way too much of a criticism. The rest was really good. You can see, you turn in, if I do it in slow-mo, you turn... It's not going to the grass. You can only turn gently because you know otherwise it's not going to... Look, now you're applying more, and it didn't really turn very well because you already are on the limit of front grip. You didn't whack on even more. You didn't overreact. You were like, okay, that's fine. I can see the trajectory is going to take me to the outside curb, and then boom, all of the track used on the exit. Like, really good. Well, that's what we want everywhere. So let's just have a look at the data. I know we've overrun a little bit, but I just want to see. What was that lap time? That last one was a... 450. So let's see, where's there a 450 on here? I might have to refresh. It should have had time to load by now. Oh, this is everyone. We don't want everyone. Just my teammates. That's just personal bests. We want all laps. Oh god, it's gone back to all teammates. You have to set the filters in a particular order, otherwise it keeps resetting. What? Where's it gone? Why have we gone back to personal bests? All laps driven. Here we go. Right, 450. It's this one here.
Number
so let's
4.
Just look at that, and we'll look at that versus a lap from the earlier session, which was, let's have a look. What was your best from session 2? So this is where you were. So let's go 860 because this will show the contrast between when you were treating that turn 2 really tight. And when you went, oh, I can't see an 860. Maybe it doesn't count if it was off track or something. 517 maybe. Let's go for that. That one. Here we go. Right, so we'll apply those. Okay, let's make that bright pink rather than purpley. Let's make this bright green. So we've really got a difference. So we've got me in blue. Your best lap you did in... When was that? In the first session, I guess. And then laps from the next 2 sessions. Just bearing in mind you didn't nail the rest of the lap, but we're just going to focus in on certain parts. Okay. So the green one, which was your 517, obviously we went too quick in turn 1. We can see that on the data. Lost a load of time on the exit. So no drama there. But I really want to see what we did on this. Yeah, the 450 lap in turn 2. So let's go for that. So turn 2, this fiddly bit here, we're going to have a bunch of lines to look at. Let's have a look. I'll grey out the others. Let's get rid of the green. Let's get rid of the blue. So this is just you versus you. I appreciate red. Maybe let's make one of these a different colour, because red versus pink is a bit too close. Let's make your first one green as well. Sorry about this. Just want to make sure it's clear. Okay, so before you can see, I know there's a couple of grey lines there too, but just ignore the grey lines. You can see you in the past in green versus you on that last run in pink. And you see how before you slowed right down to this speed here. So you were down to 85k, and at the same point on the way into that first apex, where you're doing 85, you're now doing 90, so that's good. So you're carrying more speed all the way through. You then had this bit where you were going quicker in the middle on the other run, where, of course, because you could. And then on the exit, now what's happened? On the exit, you've actually gone... Okay, this is interesting. So you were going quicker because you still carried more speed through the middle bit, even though you were pressed up to the inside. But that completely screwed you for this next one where you were tight to the inside, and then you lost a bunch of time just here. Now, this isn't a great comparison because you still did other things well on that green lap there. But the main thing I'm looking at is this pink line slows down to a point just here, and then it speeds back up again. You don't have like a minimum speed and then another minimum speed. I know there's a bunch of lines here, but essentially that's just a better technique. You might not have maximized it, but you definitely got the idea. Your minimum speed was in the middle. You can see where the little red dot goes on the map here. When I slide this along, instead of your minimum speed being here and then here, which is like first apex and then just before the second apex, it's only in the middle, your minimum speed, which is much better. And if we then get rid of your bad one, and I'll put my one up as a comparison, it's much more similar. My minimum speed is slightly earlier, but it's a similar point. You see we're doing a similar matching trace. Whereas your other 2 sets of laps we were looking at, you can see they have like this early wave and then this late wave. So basically it's just better. You just need more laps to get it, to really make the most of it, because sometimes it's quicker to do the wrong thing really well than the right thing suboptimally. And that's just where we are at the moment. So let's just, on top of that, see how you were doing on that lap at turn 1.
So I mean, I definitely need to also practice just being like on the limit more. Like basically not always being, Yeah,
because some of the times you were doing this correct version into turn 2, you were still holding yourself back on the entry. I was having to encourage you, turn in now. Like, carry the entry speed early and then do the braking a bit later. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete some of these others so they're not in the way confusing. Let's get rid of this 517. So we've just got mine, your earlier run, and your later run. So we can just have a little look at some of these compared. So let's look at turn 1. Here we go. So... yeah, so I can definitely see. So purple line is your latest lap, like the last one you did. You are definitely trying to go in faster now. You're actually going in quicker than me. Like the purple line, or pinky line, is above the blue line on the early phase. You do then have a bit of a crisis of confidence.
Slow down more,
Yeah, and if you have a look at the pink line on the braking trace down here, you're like 100% braking into the ABS, actually, well before we get into the corner. Like, you're still approaching the corner. You're like... you've gone quicker here, and then you've gone, oh shit, and just like held the brakes on hard. And that's why your speed line then does come down and actually pretty much match your earlier run on that early phase. But having said that, you then realise that, come off the brakes more, and you allow the car to roll in. So if we were to just take this little snapshot here in the middle phase, you're directly 50% closer to me in the middle. So that's good. That's really good. You just haven't quite got the confidence to do it all the way through the corner. But that's better, for sure. Now, you went wider and deeper and lost time on the exit, but that's just, you know, whatever. It's because, again, we haven't maximised it yet, but at least you're heading in the right direction here. And like I said after the first run, I'd rather you got it wrong trying to do it right, because then we can fix the reason you got it wrong, rather than just always accepting we're just going to be a bit slow, because it's easy to be, you know, we can do it we can be slow perfectly. So I'd much rather it was harder, but then you've got a target to aim for. So anyway, turn one, cool. And I appreciate we didn't really go any quicker, but that's just because you haven't had time. In a 1 hour session with loads of chat, and it's been an hour and 26 now, and I'm still talking. In a 1 hour session like this, there's just not time for you to do enough laps to nail the concepts. Okay, so let's look at some others. So into the first hairpin. I'm still definitely massively slowing it down more than you. However, you're not really losing any time. You're doing fine. Actually, most of the time loss is on the entry. You're going a bit slower. Sorry, you're going a bit faster than me in the middle, but you're entering the corner a lot slower. So that's where we've kind of got a bit of a flipped compromise. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world, so let's not worry. But here we really see where you lost all your time on that final lap. This pink line here, this is the second hairpin. Look how wide you went. Up until that point, you started the lap quicker than your green lap, so you would have been in the 101s. You then kind of matched it in the middle, but I'm looking down at the delta here. By the time you went into the first hairpin, you were still ahead, but then massive jump. You lost.
Oh
you
yeah,
lose it all
that's
just
a half
there.
a second, I think, right there almost.
Yeah, so right here,
3/10.
and then boom. Yeah. So, and then you do gain some of it back. If I just go to a full lap, you gain some of it back into the last corner because you're much better into the last corner.
Right.
You go from, so you're 1
That
point.
closed the delta quite a bit.
Yeah, it really did. But
I made it pretty close. Yeah.
But it was too late. It was just too late.
But yeah,
so,
we can definitely. If I do this a few more laps, for sure, we'll be 101. Yeah.
So good job, man. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
You did really well. I know there's just I always overrun on the time on the first session because I'd much rather we really got to the bottom of things, nailed some things down. As a general overview, and what I'm going to write in your notes when we finish this session, because I make every session we do, I write notes and then we can refer to it back before we start the next one. The general theme is definitely started off under driving. We began to implement pushing, keeping it near the limit for longer, and then some specific like double apex corner techniques. But thank you for listening to me, and hopefully.
Well, thanks for your help.
No, it's not a problem at all, man. Thank you for thanks for booking me.
Well, I only did one because I wanted to make sure I was coachable. So should I...
you are coachable for sure.
Okay. All right, I'll book some more. I forgot. I think you do like 4 packs. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So most people do
that.
4. You choose the first one. So when you book it, you can just like choose a date from the available dates and times. But then the system just doesn't allow you to book them in the future. So we just then liaise and odds manually input the next one. So we can do that all at once. You can wait week by week if you want, whatever's easiest. I think it's easier if we put them in and then I can always reschedule them if you need to move, because it's really easy to
that'd
reschedule.
be good for me too. Yeah, it's good
But
to know.
Just let me know. But no rush, man. I'm super busy right now, but I've got, when we get to like the end of March, suddenly I've got a lot more availability. I'm just in the middle of a job at the moment which has a lot of weekday work, so most of my coaching is crammed into the weekend, but it gets way more flexible. You'll see on the schedule anyway. But thank you very much for that. It was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Very enjoyable.
Thank you, Brad. Awesome. Really, you're a great coach. I really appreciate it, and I'll do some practicing, and the next time we meet, I will hopefully be more on the limit and not getting on the throttle before the car's pointed in the right direction.
It's nothing you did today was weird or unusual. It was all purely exactly what you expect from everyone.
Yeah.
With a lack of
Didn't
seat
put it
time.
in the wall either, so that's good. So.
Exactly. And maybe we'll focus on a track that you're actually going to race at, and then it means a bit more because it's like there's a genuine benefit to being better at this particular track. So we'll look at the calendar or something like that.
Sounds good.
Cool. Thanks, man. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, Brad. You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.